Good evening, everybody. I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Monee Village Board of Trustees, November 9th, 2022, 6:33. If I can please ask Joe DeCenzo to come up for the invocation.
Thanks everybody for having us and for being able to pray before this meeting. It's a privilege and an honor. Pray with me. Lord, we just thank you for tonight. Lord, it's the month of Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving is a form of worship. And so, Lord, we just bring our thanks to you tonight. We thank you for all of those leaders that are in the room and all those that are in the community. We thank you for the cooperation and the collaboration that's happening, Lord God. We thank you that you are guiding and leading. And Lord, we just thank you for your grace that allows us to be here tonight. We pray, Lord God, for all the discernment and wisdom that's needed tonight for decisions that need to be made. We pray, God, that would be an ample supply tonight. And Lord, we just pray that your Spirit would guide and lead. And Lord, help us to find new ways of working together and accomplishing your plan for Monee so that it's a great place to live, work, play, raise a family, and worship. We give you praise, God, right now, and we give you our thanks. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. If we could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Here.
Trustee Horn?
Here.
Trustee Henson?
Present.
Trustee Rakes?
Here.
Trustee Wilson?
Present.
Trustee Udris?
Present.
Thank you. Open to the public, agenda items only. If anybody has anything they would like to talk about. Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda, may I please have a motion to accept?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Horn?
Yes.
Trustee Henson?
Yes.
Trustee Rakes?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Udris?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes. Thank you. And clerk's report.
Thank you, Mayor Bogues. I have a couple things I wanted to let everyone know about this evening. One, early voting. I wanted to give my report on that. This past week, early voting was absolutely amazing. We have not had this many as far as since I've been here. We had 389 early voters, which surpassed the amount of early voters we had during the presidential election, which was really great. Also, I wanted to thank those that worked with me this week, last week, as they volunteered their time with me. It was Ms. Linda Marshall, Elena Esparza, Lisa Murray from the front office. She helped assist with some curbside voters, and Deputy Clerk Powell, who stayed election night while Will County was here uploading data. Also, yesterday, I went to the polling places just to check and see how things were going, and all of the election judges were excited of the turnout as well. There are, during the early voting, there were some residents that came in and expressed their concern of them living on Main Street when people speeding, and wanted me to mention to you all, if you could look into stop signs additional on Main Street, because they said that they sit out there all the time and they see a potential hazard with children out there running. So I told them I will make sure I mention that to you all as well. Last but not least, New Hope Community Christian Church, they are having a Thanksgiving dinner. They're inviting whoever would like to participate, but seating is limited. It is on Thursday, November 24th. You RSVP by November 19th, and you can contact Phyllis Hooks at 708-235-0995. Local transportation will be provided. End of report.
Thank you. Under my report, I've got a couple that are on the agenda and a couple other things I want to throw out there. First of all, Friday, November 11th is Veterans Day. The theme for Veterans Day 2022 is honor. Veterans are proud of their military service in defending our nation. Honor reflects the military value and tradition of answering the call to duty. There is a distinct honor in serving to protect our way of life and the Constitution of the United States of America. So please be sure, thank your veterans. Next up, super exciting. The Monee Mavericks varsity football team is here tonight.
All right.
Okay. They finished their season undefeated despite having a smaller roster than most teams they faced. The Mavericks won their Super Bowl last Saturday against the Stager Storm with their commitment, integrity, and dedication. I would like to please introduce Coach Rico Guillermo, Tim Dunn, and Jamie Harris. Have them come up with their trophy. Bring the athletes up. You guys want to tell us a little bit about? Yeah, exactly. You're fantastic athletes, and
It's a lot to sell, so we're gonna cut through it. All right? I was picked up by Enrico. I'm a retired person. I was a parole officer for the Department of Corrections. Need something to do? He'll say, I got you. I said, okay. Played football for Iowa State. Son played football. I picked up with these kids, and it's been going on ever since. We had a great season. We didn't know how it was going to turn out. We had 10 players when we started.
Wow.
And we built from there. We didn't know how the game one was going to go. Every team was obviously bigger than us and deeper. Everyone had to play. Everyone. So it was like, if we get hurt, game over. So thank God our numbers grew. We stayed healthy. These boys worked hard. Some of these kids haven't even played football before, and you wouldn't believe the kind of games that we had.
Awesome. Awesome.
It was just amazing. We had an undefeated season. Obviously, it gets tougher as it goes on. When you play other teams, they learn how you play, and they try to basically beat us. And with that in mind, made it to the Super Bowl, had a nice little lead. It started dwindling down. It's like an average game that you watch on TV. Like, you got a lead, and all of a sudden it dwindles down, and we're like, okay, we're panicking now. So, okay, after the panic, let's settle down at halftime. Halftime talk. We pick it up. Here's the victory. We appreciate you all. Come on. There you go.
Proud of you guys. Great season.
Mayor, want to stand next to the coach?
They ran for the Super Bowl. Next, they running for mayor.
Move over just a little bit. Yep, perfect. Okay, if you can't see this, look right here.
Mayor's office.
You guys clap it up for yourselves. You guys
Don't leave the girl out. That's right.
All right, come on, y'all. We are dismissed.
Everybody got everything? Who got it? What's up, Tom? What's up, son?
Congratulations, congratulations. Congratulations.
Way to go, Mavericks.
Thank you, man. Take care, y'all.
This looks more normal.
That moved the chain.
Okay, next up on my report, not as exciting as the last. Discussion/approval regarding the tax levy. The village has not raised the levy amount within the last 4 years. The village looks to continue this as we prepare to set the village levy for fiscal year '23. The village levy will have to be delivered to the Will County Clerk's office on or before the last Tuesday in December. So I'm looking for a motion that we keep the tax levy.
Then make a
I'll make
motion that
that
we keep
motion.
it.
Second and third.
Sure,
and
everybody wants to get on
unanimous.
that one.
Anybody want to discuss
Everyone made
that?
the motion.
Actually, one thing that I did want to say about that, I did actually have a conversation with Daryl about the possibility not only of just holding flat on the levy, but of actually, like cutting it by 50%, 75%, with the thought that if we did that, we, wouldn't have to go through the hours of work that we do when we do the rebates. And at first, it sounded like a great idea. Daryl did some looking into it. And as it turns out, that by cutting the levy, say 50%, we're not going to be able to give the residents, they won't see the refund that if we did a rebate of 50%, they would actually see less come off of their property taxes because of the way that Will County structures the property taxes. My thought of trying to actually reduce the levy, I think at this point, keeping it flat and every year looking at and doing rebates as much as we can is by far the better route to go. So
not reducing the levy, but the rate. The
we'll
rate, not
maintain the levy, don't increase it. And then we're going to be able to give the residents a much bigger break on that by doing the rebate, that we do, and making that a yearly thing. That's going to actually be more beneficial for the residents.
Also, by not raising it and leaving it the way that it is and getting the rebate to the people, we can help the people as much as we can do. And I just think that's what we need to do in today's times.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Trustee Henson?
Yes.
Trustee Rakes?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Udris?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
Trustee Horn?
Yes.
Thank you. Second up is discussion/approval regarding the policy manual. Everybody was given a flash drive, I want to say back in July, with a lot of material to go through. So we're looking to get some, I want to say some order established and some guidelines. So I would like, please, a motion that we accept the policy manual.
I'll make that motion.
And I will second it
And then discussion.
and discussion.
Yes.
And then I would say too, because I know this, I don't want to say it's a draft, but it's our first pass. So I would suggest for all of us too then, this is what we have to work with. And how did the saying used to go, is an evergreen document. So if we need adjustments, need and can be made, should be done. Okay.
Any other discussion?
Sorry.
No?
Okay.
Okay, before I do roll call, may I have a copy of that flash drive too? So I'll have that. Thank you. Trustee Rakes?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Udris?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
Trustee Horn?
Yes.
Trustee Henson?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to the administrator's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. First item under my report is Robinson Engineering. It's here tonight for a presentation in consideration of future development projects, building relationships with our businesses and industrial community, and ensuring that we keep the well-being and care of our residents close to heart. The village has taken much time in developing plans, addressing infrastructure needs, updating codes, policy, and ordinances. In that light, we have asked Robinson Engineering to assist staff with some of those needs and concerns. Senior Planner Maura Rigoni is here tonight to share with the board some of these issues that we have discussed over the past few months concerning zoning codes as it relates to the need for a stockpiling ordinance and other related issues. It should be noted that Ms. Rigoni has previously addressed these issues with the Planning and Zoning Board at their October 19th meeting. Ms. Rigoni will also share with the Board of Trustees the ideas and sentiment of the Planning and Zoning Board and a possible avenue moving forward. This would include a public hearing should the village plan to amend the current village building code. You will find attached the October 19th memo outlining the stockpile amendment and guidelines, and a draft copy of stockpile regulations. Tonight's presentation is for board review and consideration only, and no board action will be taken tonight. So without further introduction, Ms. Rigoni.
Thank you, Mayor and trustees. I'm Maura Rigoni. I am with Robinson Engineering. I'm not an engineer, but I am a certified planner. I provide planning assistance for a number of communities from the Indiana border all the way up to the Wisconsin border to help and assist in planning reviews as well as then updating codes. So I was very excited when staff came before and identified a number of zoning ordinance related items that need to be reviewed. And one of them that we kind of prioritized was the stockpile. So for those that, if you haven't been involved in text amendments, which don't really come all that often, is that we update codes through text amendments to ensure that we're keeping our codes up with what's currently happening, right? As we've ever changed, we have different land uses that come up, and I always chuckle that when we look through accessory structures and we have things like fallout structures or fallout shelters, we tend to think that it's probably a good time to kind of start reviewing again. So with that, your ordinance does allow for a mechanism in section 11-2-8 for text amendments. And it is entitled, as it is, text amendment. The process is that it goes before your PC ZBA for discussion, of which we did have at the October meeting. Then there is a public hearing, and it is required by your ordinance that you do hold a public hearing for any text amendment that comes. It's the same manner as public hearing and notification you would have for rezoning or a special use. As any rezoning or special use that would be, it's a recommendation that comes before then the village board. In the ordinance, there's specific standards that both the Plan Commission ZBA as well as the village board must consider when doing a text amendment. And those are very in nature, you know, making sure that it's consistent with what your progress is, that it's not so contained into one particular area, but kind of globally. So those are, as we move forward, as we consider any ordinance amendment, we want to make sure that we keep those in mind. So that's kind of a background on what the text amendments are. As we related, as I noted, that we spoke about a number of text amendments, and we're continuing to work with staff, and that will probably come within the next couple months or so. But the one that they asked to kind of focus in on right now is stockpiles. Stockpiles, our first thing whenever we do an ordinance update is we kind of go out and we see what everybody else is doing. You know, is there anything out there that can help, that can guide? With stockpiling, a lot of it comes with an outdoor use, an outdoor storage, which sometimes is a special use, or the use itself also just facilitates stockpiles, and that's sometimes a special use. So to have specific regulations for stockpiling, we kind of had to cast the net a little bit further. So we grabbed a whole bunch from all over regulating everything from landfills to stockpiles to little collections of outdoor storage. So with that, we gathered a bunch of different regulations and we looked at your zoning ordinance. Most of the uses in the M2 are where we would probably see stockpiling. That's more of your intensities of your manufacturing. So with that, some uses that are in there would inherently have stockpiles. So we discussed many different options, and one of them is that we just establish regulations. And these regulations would identify specifics for stockpiling. Doesn't matter if the stockpile is for concrete, asphalt, mulch, or whatever that operation is, that we establish specifics, because what we're addressing in terms of this really doesn't matter what it is at a certain degree, it's how it is and where it's located. So I just want to be clear that this text amendment does not propose to regulate that of which is part of a construction or development, that this is specific to something that is permanent and something that is associated with a business. So with that, the proposed text amendments that were presented at the Plan Commission identified just a couple items. In your memo, it goes into a little bit more detail, but I'll kind of hit the main points that it is. One is height, how tall, right? How tall is that stockpile is the most important. And so we went back and forth with staff as well as on the discussions at Plan Commission on what is the best way, what is reasonable, you know? So at first we had said 10 feet, and then there was a discussion, well, 10 feet seemed kind of low, 10 feet is restrictive, what do we do? High is the building, 35 feet seems so much, so you kind of try and gauge where we kind of fit in that. So one of the items that we discussed most recently is saying, okay, we want to make sure we can see it we can't see, or some of it in part, not all, from the roadway or the property lines. Some, as we know with topography of land, sometimes there's a low area where maybe the stockpile could be a little bit higher, or sometimes it's closer to the road where we would not want it to be. So looking at it based on visibility from the property lines as well as then the road, saying it can't, no more than X, whatever that X should be, cannot be seen from the roadway or the property lines. Other is location. Everybody wants to put everything as far away as they can from themselves. So we wanted to look at a way that we could protect whether it's residentially next door or whether it's any other use next door. And that's by establishing 300 feet from the property line if it's residential, 100 any other use. The next is that looking at a minimum property size. How big? We don't want to have a stockpile in something as small as 20,000 square feet. That just becomes impactful and almost with all the setbacks doesn't work. So maintaining a minimum size, 5 acres, would be something that could probably address where the location is and add in all the other regulations that we're putting in place. The other is fencing, minimum of an 8-foot fence around the perimeter. This would also not only help with screening, but also to make sure sometimes stockpile types developments have, fly-by dumping and so forth, so it kind of helps it secure in what's happening in there. Berming and height kind of go hand in hand. We looked at berming in terms of requiring it all around the perimeter of the property, and varying in height, maybe starting from 3 all the way up to 6, depending. And then also landscaping on top of that. With that, we were discussing the height could be dependent on how tall the berm is in certain areas. For example, if you have, a 3-foot berm, maybe in reality that stockpile is 13 feet because you can only see 10 feet. Or maybe it's a little bit higher because it's lower in the ground. So when you see it from the road, it is only that 10 feet. And I'm just using 10 feet as kind of a baseline of discussion. So with that, looking at additional landscaping on there to provide extra screening. Other additional regulations that we put into place relate to some things like stormwater pollution plan. That was something that the Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals brought up, that the concern about with these types of materials, how are we going to ensure that we don't have it in our stormwater and so forth. Something similar to what you would require when you were doing any type of development with new construction. But that would be tailored to something that would be in its longevity, right, because they are going to stay around. The other is an operations plan, just kind of understanding what's happening. Hours of operation, they can kind of tell us, what is it that's happening? Are they coming in at all hours? Truck traffic, how many trucks? Is this something that's going to come, once a week? Are they going to come in and out? Also looking at odor control, dust control, things that would require by the IEPA anyway. So stating that they still have to comply with all state and federal regulations, regardless of what your code says. And lastly, one of the Plan Commission discussions as well was regarding an emergency prevention plan. And this was outlined more of a discussion on some neighboring communities that may have had some issues with mulch piles and so forth that can catch on fire, and to make sure that we did have some emergency prevention plan in place. What that may be is kind of pertaining to the individual product that they have. Something may not require it, but at least then we have in the ordinance a mechanism to request that and review that as well. So these are kind of the highlights of what is in the packet. Some others that we talked about was how much of the percentage of the property couldn't be occupied by a stockpile, so the whole entire thing, a third of it, 30%. Locating it in the least possible visible location. If there's kind of a low spot, that maybe makes more sense. We looked at others such as making sure that it's outside of the floodplain, again, addressing that stormwater issue. And requiring that they do submit a plan to show us where it is and all of the other requirements that we have outlined in there. So with that, then the next step is, so once we have these items outlined, here as kind of a proposal for discussion to go back to the Plan Commission, and we're going to have to discuss what that one item, what that height is, what that, I'm saying 10 feet, but is it 10, is it 12, to kind of gauge that. Then what we do is we go ahead and hold a public hearing back at the PCZBA, and then again, they are a recommending body to the village board to either approve or deny with conditions or modifications. That's sometimes what happens, and it's okay. Once we get to the public arena, sometimes we add things or modify things. And again, that then gets forwarded on to the village board for consideration. Again, you can modify and change as need be, and then it becomes part of the ordinance at this point. Some other items that we can talk about is, where it's put in place in terms of, how do we handle those that are existing, let them kind of grandfather in? How do we handle that may be expanded and so forth? So we can address that through the ordinance adoption on where and effectively that it comes into play and who is impacted by it at this time. So to kind of cross that of understanding that we have some out there, like every community does, what do we do moving forward from this point? So this is kind of an overview of not only how to do a text amendment, but also in the stockpile discussion that we have. So I think in your packet you do have kind of the draft, as well as then some of the items that have been modified since that appearing before the PCZBA. And I'm here for any questions or any comments you may have.
Do you have an example of what that would be with this text amendment as to how the layout would be that has been done previously?
We can look at that. No, we just met last week. I think it was last week, and we discussed that, kind of identifying maybe some examples. Not maybe just the existing, we can look at the existing ones, but also maybe just kind of grab something and work with the engineers to kind of lay the grade and say what could it be or how high could it be in relationship to that. We could definitely put some kind of quick numbers, kind of examples together. Because we did look at some of the existing ones out there, just to see where they're located, and some of them based on the location that, is near areas that maybe not be considered as impactful due to their separation or so forth or that. So we can definitely add that for an exhibit. Yep.
Thank you.
And just to clarify, so the meeting that you had then, Maura, with planning and zoning, then this is kind of outlining an outdated ordinance that we already have, and these are things that you all talked about then to update it as well.
Well, in terms of it, your ordinance is silent in terms of stockpiles. So this is actually a brand new regulation. So it's a brand new regulation that would be put into place. I would recommend that it be placed in your M2 district regulations. That is section, I think it's 11-9B. And regulate those to those, because those are the operations that are heavier in manufacturing types, and those are where you would more likely see these types of stockpile, or you as a village would want to see these types of stockpiles, not in your M1s or so forth.
More regarding the fence, item J, do we have any guidelines? I guess we can put those in here, expand upon that. Do you envision that being a privacy fence or a security fence?
I wouldn't say security as in terms of, barbed wire and so forth. I would look at it kind of more of an enclosure. For one, kind of helping contain the property in itself. Maybe just ensure that there aren't any, people able to come in. But also it can be a solid fence in terms of to provide additional screening if need be.
So something like a chain link fence versus a privacy fence.
Correct. So it kind of gets to what exactly we want that fence to do. If we wanted to add for additional screening for this, it can be, you can specify some type of a stockade or opaque fence, and we can have that. When we use the terms like opaque, that means that there's only a certain part that's open.
Yeah.
So it doesn't become this almost kind of compound around it. Because one of the goals when talking to village staff is that we want these businesses to, sometimes when we try to hide things, we make it worse and we draw more attention to it. So we want to make it in such a way that it kind of blends. So if there's
Yeah.
another M2 property right next door that maybe is some type of warehousing development, that it looks continuous and it doesn't look like we're trying to hide. So kind of crossing that balance of making sure that the landscaping is consistent along the roadways and the fencing as well.
So I guess I would be in favor of us fleshing that item out a little bit
Sure.
more. So developers know exactly what we are looking for in that situation. And is that currently, where would M2 be located in the village right now? Do you know offhand?
I'm imagining your zoning map right now. Most of the M2s are centered that around 57. That there's a couple that maybe kind of come off the feeder roads off of 57, but most of it, I'm okay. I'm remembering. I have so many zoning maps in my head right now, that most of them are along 57.
Is there any M1s along 57?
There are a couple of M1s along 57. I think some of those were either A, developed, or B, kind of on the smaller side, in terms of whether you're, I think you're going whether a stockpile would be something that would be in the M1. I don't know what type of business it would be that wouldn't come in as a special use that would be in your M1 that would probably you'd want to have stockpiling or allow stockpiling with.
Well, I'm just wondering if we would have to rezone for somebody coming in with a situation like this. But you're saying that there's a lot of, down by 57, most of that is M2 versus M1.
Yes, and we can provide a zoning map as well with that to kind of identify those areas. I think when rezoning the property is, taking consideration whether it's appropriately zoned as is or whether it's appropriately zoned somewhere. And sometimes this kind of guides to where these types of developments should occur. That they're less, they seem to gravitate along interstate corridors just because the easy on and off. Also, it's generally further away from the residents as well.
Thank you.
Also, as in regards to the topical map, there we go. They have a lower area in the back where they're going to be putting stuff, so you have a stockpile can be no higher than X. Will you guys be taking into effect for such situations?
Correct, and that was the intent of how, and that's why we're saying it visible from the property lines. So I liken this to what I've worked into other communities where, say, there's stacking like containers and so forth, and we had a large parcel, and it dropped off so much that you couldn't even see one. So then we gave them areas that they could say, okay, this could be a little bit higher because of the topography, but they had to prove that to us. They had to show us some type of topographic map showing that this was the level, and then they gave us points and along the property lines, and we were able to go ahead and decipher that, as well as then in this case including the height of the berm at that point.
But there will be something in there concerning that, so that it could instruct people that would be coming up to Monee to do this, to where they would say, oh, okay, I can do this.
Correct.
It does touch on that. I know it says line of sight, but
We could make it clear in terms of, similar to how when we do other regulations, how we measure things, so many distance from that, we can specify, we can get into for, in this case and in this matter only, the measurements should be taken from X and make it very clear to how it is being determined for this only. Because we have height in the rest of your zoning ordinance that regulates different buildings, so I don't want to change the word height, but I think in how things are measured, but I think we can be very specific to how we're measuring the height for this type of particulars.
Thank you.
And that 5 acres, is that the, but can it be less? Can it be like the 2.5 acres, 3 acres? Does that make a difference, or will it make a difference in the line of sight and those things to where it would affect it the other way?
The way that it's written right now is that a stockpile can only be located on property, stockpile associated with business, correct? Can only be located on a property that's 5 acres or more. Say you have a business that comes in and it's 2.5 acres or 3 acres. By way that it's written, you have a variation process. You can consider that. They can come in kind of as a special consideration for a reduction in that property size. This is just setting the line, as we've said, for anyone who's coming into the village with a property that is a permitted use, that they know exactly what. If they want something different than this, say they can't locate it within, 100 feet of their property, or they can't do something, but it's a unique situation. Maybe it's, 4.5 acre that's located right along 57 in the middle of nowhere, highly, has screening and so forth. Maybe that's something that you can specially consider based on it. But this is kind of setting the playing field, the even playing field on where it is, but still allows you for unique situations that may come arise.
Thank you.
Okay, Maura, I'm sorry, did someone else have something? Okay, just for clarification, this is moving forward. This is not in any a specific project. This is just to be preemptive for moving forward for the future. This would not include any current locations that have a current stockpile. They would be grandfathered in. This is moving forward, is what we're addressing. So, Maura, I think that's it.
Okay.
I just want to make sure I'm not cutting anybody off. No questions.
No,
Okay.
I appreciate your time, and I appreciate the questions, and we will definitely work with staff to finalize that number, as well as define height, as well as then provides examples. Thank you.
Very
Thank you,
good.
Maura.
Thank you, Maura. Next item is EMA vehicle surplus, a donation. The Village of Monee Emergency Management Agency, EMA Director Randy Ulaskis has learned that an EMA mutual aid partner is in need of emergency vehicles. Director Ulaskis has worked diligently at addressing the needs of the Monee EMA team and has gradually been building a fleet of reliable emergency vehicles. At this point, Director Ulaskis is requesting to declare a vehicle surplus in his fleet. The EMA vehicle is a 2007 Ford Crown Victoria with 128,602 miles. With the board's approval, Monee EMA would like to donate the Ford Crown Victoria to the Stager EMA team. This would continue the long-lasting partnership that has been forged between these agencies and our villages. And on a side note, the Village of Stager donated an EMA squad car to the newly formed Monee EMA team when resources were scarce, circa 2014. Board action request is a motion to declare the 2007 Ford Crown Victoria as village surplus property.
I will make that motion.
I'll second. I'll just say that I think this is great. They helped us out back when we needed it, and I think that that's the way that you should repay your favors, and it's just normal in life. They helped us, we helped them. We wouldn't get much out of it if we were to sell it or put it in auction anyhow. It would be worth more for them to use than for us to sell.
The other thing I'll add to that is, in talking with Randy, the vehicle itself is actually in great running shape, thanks to efforts of some of the guys from Public Works that have worked on it and maintained it. So it's not that we're giving them, scrap, we're giving them a solid vehicle. And, like Trustee Henson said, they're in need, and we have the opportunity to help them out. So that's what mutual aid's all about.
Trustee Udris?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
Trustee Horn? Yes. Trustee Henson?
Yes.
Trustee Rakes?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Thank you. Next board action request is a motion to approve the donation of the Ford Crown Victoria as is to the Village of Stager's Emergency Management Agency.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
Trustee Horn?
Yes.
Trustee Henson?
Yes.
Trustee Rakes?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Udris?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Next item, Building Services Supervisor. In order to meet the needs of a growing community, the Building Services Manager has recognized the need to expand the department's operation base. One of the objectives is to hire a full-time Building Services Supervisor to assist the Building Department Manager with inspection duties, train new code enforcement officers, manage field operations, and address building code complaints that come in on a routine basis. Over time, this proposed position would allow the Building Department Manager to take on the more needed role of administrative manager within a department. Therefore, we would request the Board's consideration to create the position of a Building Services Supervisor. Should the Board approve this position, the job announcement would be posted on the village website and on all of the village's public media outlets. A job description for this position has been created and is attached for the Board's review and consideration. Board action request is a motion to approve the proposed Building Department position of Building Services Supervisor.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
There was a lot of confusion with last meeting and this meeting about these being pretty much the same positions and such. I'm just here to say that Trustee Yodris has been talking to me and everybody about this, and he has made some changes. He did some pretty good rewritings. The other one was just a totally different position. This one here is to assist and to be used in building services, the man hours that we need and the people that we need, and I think that this is a position that we do need. Scott?
Yeah, I 100% agree, and thanks to Jude and to Rami and everybody that listened to us. And for me, I looked at it. I wanted it to make it a position that was set up for success, and nothing from the first time around was anything that we didn't need to accomplish with the village. But I think this really hones in on one area that we can get somebody in this position to be highly successful and really move building services forward. So, thank you.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Horn?
Yes.
Trustee Henson?
Yes.
Trustee Rakis?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Udris?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The Board action request is a motion to approve Attorney Krzyzewski to draft an ordinance for this position and make ready for Board review at the next scheduled meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Henson?
Yes.
Trustee Rakis?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Udris?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
Trustee Horn?
Thank you, Board. Next item, bulk road salt purchase, a resolution request. Attached is a resolution authorizing use of motor fuel tax funding to purchase bulk road salt for fiscal year 2023 in the amount of $47,796.00. This would be for the purchase of 600 tons of salt at the state bid of $79.66 per ton. Superintendent Johnson has initiated the state bid pricing of product through the State of Illinois Central Management Services, or CMS, which has a current rate set at $79.66 per ton. Due to the recent impact upon supply and demand of commercial goods, staff requests authorization to make this purchase. Action requested is a motion to pass the resolution authorizing the purchase of bulk road salt in the amount of $47,796.00, utilizing motor fuel tax funding.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just I guess a question. I wondered, I don't know if he's here, if we remember what has been paid in the past. I wondered if this has gone up significantly as well.
Great question. It has gone up 28% from last year.
And also, just for everybody's knowledge, 600 tons sounds like it's a lot, but with some of the other places, this is some of the stuff that I do for work, and the amount that we take in to different municipalities. 600 tons is nowhere near some of the other municipalities have, so this is pretty good that we can get that and don't have to, and it can deal with everything. So hopefully we have a decent winter.
Well, from what I hear we're supposed to have a pretty good winter. And this is salt. That's it.
Yes,
But we
sir.
have our brining then too, so that we don't need as much salt with our special brine configuration thing. Solution.
When I said good winter, I was hoping for a mild, just to clarify.
Well, the Farmer's Almanac is calling for a lot, so, yeah.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a motion?
We have a motion in a second.
Yes.
Yes.
I do have one more question. So, in the event we run out, how do we go about it then? And is there a way that if we were to buy more at the current rate before it goes up again, where it would be held on account of the price that it is at the time of purchase versus later when it goes up?
Good question.
I'd like to answer that if I may. We actually have, because last winter was a rather mild winter, we actually have about 300 tons unused from last year. So about 900 tons we should be, that's well enough to get us through the winter, barring it being like the upper peninsula weather, snowpocalypse or something, yeah. So, good question.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Rakes?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Udris?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
Trustee Horn?
Yes.
Trustee Henson?
Yes.
Resolution number is 2022-10.
Thank you, Board. End of report.
Thank you. Moving on to the officials' reports, Public Works, Trustee Horn.
Good evening, everyone. Several items for your consideration and information. Court Street resurfacing project is substantially complete. Striping has been completed, and the only remaining tasks are the installation of pavement reflectors and landscape restoration, which are expected to be completed within the next week, and we've had some great weather to finish this project up in a really timely manner. Now, I want to tell you about something that happened in the course of this project that we had, and how our DPW staff saved us approximately $10,000. These are the feel-good stories for us tonight. The engineering staff identified the need to replace, there was actually 3 rusted and damaged driveway culverts within the project limits. We received price quotes for this work totaling $14,873.49. That was for just 3 of those metal culverts. We decided that we could do it on our own. And so we, the total cost for putting this all together, installing these culvert replacements, was $4,152. And we used the special thanks to DPW team members Jill Donati, Tyler Shoemaker, Brennan Smith, Calvin Moonshaw, Matt Olson, Jeremy Johns for their contributions as well. We did use the engineering services of Jeff Agan and Josh Borelli for that. So savings of $10,000. So thank you, DPW. I don't see any of them here tonight, but I'm sure they'll see this. I'll let them know. Now, as we were talking about winter preparation, Monee's trucks are ready for winter. Plows, salt spreaders, brine equipment has been installed, ready for action. And DPW has been making salt brine for pre-treatment and has secured, as we said, 600 tons of rock salt. Combine this with the 300 tons we already have. Our team is confident in having more than enough product to carry us through the season. Lastly, utility billing questions. Our staff processes payments for 2,127 utility accounts every month. Make every effort to ensure each bill is accurate regarding usage, but as you know, sometimes errors occur. If you believe there is an error in your billing, very simple. Just call the Public Works office and they will answer your questions. Well, first they'll investigate your questions and then get back to you with an answer for any errors. They will get back to you with an answer for any perceived or real errors. So you can call DPW at 708-534-8306 or dpw@villageofmonee.org. End of report.
Parks and Recreation, Trustee Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. Several things tonight, too. And first, I do want to report about, we had the Parks and Rec committee meeting last Wednesday night. So we had almost all of our trustees here, members of Monee Mavericks football and cheer, baseball, and plus of other committee and community members to join in and talk about, the committee and Parks and Rec as it stands and everything now. And we will talk about that later. We wanted to very specifically also talk about the pavilion, and that'll be further down in our agenda tonight to talk into that under unfinished business. And then on to Parks and Rec. Next Wednesday is a Thanksgiving senior luncheon on November 16th for only $5. There's still time to register for some of our arts and craft class coming up this month as well. The Village of Monee will be hosting their annual tree lighting on Friday, December 2, starting in front of Village Hall at 6 p.m. to light the tree with Santa. I heard he's coming again. And then join the Historical Society at the Creamery to visit and take pictures with Santa. And the final stop at Fireman's Park Building for a Christmas around the world, celebrating with craft projects, cookies, and hot chocolate, of course. The Monee Beautification Group and the Public Works has been working already on getting the village into the holiday spirit. And please look forward to a lot of exciting things coming up to help them. They've been working hard to make sure that we have a very decorated Monee this year. The Monee Chamber of Commerce and the Village of Monee is excited to be showcasing for the first time Bar and Restaurant Week next week, November 13th through 19th, and many are offering specials throughout the week. And there are 24 bars and restaurants in the Village of Monee. So please make sure if we're going out to eat at all in the near future, go next week and look for those specials. And then I just wanted to make everybody aware too, Monee Women's Club, we're doing the annual poinsettia sale this year. Orders can be taken now until November 22nd and be delivered on 12/1. So you can go onto the village website, onto the Facebook page or the Monee Women's Club Facebook page, or see any member to order those as well. End of report.
Great, thank you. Moving on to Finance, Trustee Rakes.
Thank you, Mayor. The village tax relief program ended Halloween, October 31st, just a couple weeks ago or a week ago. The village budgeted $550,000 for the program. The total amount of checks processed was $497,278. 95% of all applicants were accepted and filed. Most rejections were due to residents that lived in unincorporated Monee and did not pay Village of Monee taxes or did not reside in the Village of Monee for the full year of 2020. The village staff has reached out to everyone that has a relief check remaining at Village Hall. We will continue to hold on to those checks until they are claimed. If a check goes stale, the village will then submit the checks to Illinois Unclaimed Property. Sorry. The village treasurer's report has been filed with the Will County Clerk's office. The village levy will need to be approved and filed with Will County by the last Tuesday in December. End of report.
Thank you. Economic Development, Trustee Wilson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone, and I'd like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving in advance. We have one new business license issued. It was issued to the home-based business. It's Alston's Leadership Development Services, LLC. You can reach them or contact them at dralstoncoaching.com. They provide leadership development and training, executive coaching, online training academy, professional speaking, publisher, author, workshop facilitator, conference speaker. A lot going on there. Sounds good. Under Project Magnify Monee, gateway signs update. So the electrical trenching will be done in the next 2 to 3 weeks, so you can anticipate those signs being illuminated. I know we're all anticipating that, right? Website update, final image and layout of the website have been approved. So we can, Civic Plus will add content to the site in the next month. They expect the site to be up and completed early February. Under Project Unite Monee, we got Vortman Steel is teaming up with Governor State University. They'll be meeting next week. The owners of Vortman and representatives of GSU Trades Program to discuss a program and possibility of working together to advance students into skilled trade careers in the future as Vortman expands their operations. So in the future, you know, we identify, especially with our students and continuing education, they're not always going to college. They're skilled labor trades. This is a tremendous opportunity. Vortman's an international company right here in our backyard in Monee, and it's wonderful to celebrate them and see them a partnership with the local college, so that way it can keep it in the community, so to speak, and hopefully those individuals we identify will be repurposed and back into the village. So that's an awesome opportunity. Enterprise Zone, as we learned last week, last meeting actually, working with Antero Group to coordinate this initiative for future growth in certain areas. It was explained along with the TIF, not a TIF, but as an incentive tool for business commercial development that we're going to be tapping in and utilizing using the services of the Antero Group. Water main extension to the west side of I-57. Letters have been sent out to landowners detailing the impact, the importance of the project in the next month. We've been talking a long time about the redundancy, right? We want to attract commercial business. Well, they want to know how we're going to protect their asset and how can we do that as far as fire, water, making sure that they have the supply that they need just in case one of our mains goes down, so then that way we'll have the redundancy built in. As always, shop Monee when available. End of report, Mayor.
Thank you. Building Services, Trustee Henson.
Thank you, Mayor. We have 47 permits that were issued in the month of October. We have 19 homes scheduled for resale inspection. We also have a building permit submitted to us and currently in the planning stages for 2 new townhomes on Ford Court. Glad to let everyone know that the demolition of 4521 Tulip structure that sustained fire damage is complete, and we now have actually with the report some pictures to show you, and I'll turn that over to Romy. End of report.
So I have a question. I just, John, or, can we make that a small park?
Talk to the bank.
We don't own it.
Oh, we
It's in
don't?
foreclosure,
Okay.
so the bank will.
They actually
Okay.
took everything out of there except for the only thing that's left of the whole place, including the driveway and everything, is just the mailbox right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'd just like to commend this board, the administration, building department, and taking action and being proactive. You talk about blighted communities or blighted areas. That very easily could have been that situation. I know you received numerous complaints from the residents. It's a constant reminder of something that happened that was a tremendous ordeal. A constant reminder. Had a tremendous impact on the community at the time. When that incident did occur. But we didn't sleep on that. We took action. And Larry, thank you, because it took some poking and prodding through the legal system to get to the right people to make those tough decisions, so that we can take action. And not only on that, from what I understand, that the bank is also willing to reimburse. Am I correct?
As of a week ago. We'll
As of a
see.
week ago. So that doesn't happen all the time. So we'll see how that goes through. But I just really applaud this administration, this board, for taking action. And the broken window theory, there's one window and pretty soon there's two, and then next thing you know, it's dilapidated and it's in disrepair. But that's the things that we're doing here. And that goes not only in the residential area, but that's the commercial too, about bringing beautification, right? The magnifying Monee and changing our logo and getting the signage out there to let people know and say, hey, there's something going on over there, and they want to be a part of it and enticing that new business. So once again, I really believe that we're on the right track and we're doing the right things.
Okay, moving on to public safety, Trustee Udris.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, on behalf of EMA, thank you to the board for, supporting them in their wishes to help out one of their fellow EMA agencies. It means a lot to them, and they're very grateful, so thank you. EMA, been a little busy here. October 28th, they were part of the trunk or treat and also provided a light tower for that event. On Halloween, they assisted New Hope Church with their fall festival, including a light tower and also helping them work out the best plan for their traffic for their event. And on November 5th, they assisted Monee Fire with power lines down over on Pauling and Egyptian Trail. They assisted with traffic control. So Monee EMA has actually ran a record number of events and calls for the fourth consecutive year, where they've gone over 100 calls year-to-date so far. So I'll have final numbers for what they've done this year at our January meeting. So they've been quite busy. Moving on to Monee Police, if you remember at the last board meeting, we talked about, Trustee Rakes talked about a tracking device that the Monee Police is working on. I do have some pamphlets here if people are interested, and within the next couple of days, there will be stuff being put out on social media and the village website on how you can access that programming and get started with that, so that's exciting. A big thank you to Monee from Monee Police. Raised $1,400 at the November 2nd Tippecop event for Special Olympics. It says that our success is because of everybody's support, and that is the truth. We've had a great year supporting Special Olympics. Moving on to the Safety Act. Unfortunately, right now, there's no real, changes right now to that. There are 60 lawsuits that have been filed challenging the constitutionality and validity of this law. Those have been consolidated down and will be heard in the Kankakee Circuit Court in the next month. The lawsuit is asking to strike the Safety Act down, or at least to stop the implementation of it until the court has a chance to review it. And legislators are also starting to look at some of the trailer bills, especially now that the election is over. We're waiting to see how much traction those will have. And Monee is preparing anyway for January 1st for the changes right now that are scheduled to come, and we'll make adjustments as needed. We will also formulate an information packet for the board and for our citizens as we prepare for those next challenges. Also would like to take a moment to recognize the loss of one of our former police officers. Ken Zofeld recently passed. He served with Monee Police for many years during the 70s, 80s, and 90s. So our sincere condolences to his family. And lastly, as a reminder, now is your opportunity if you have any interest in becoming a police officer. This is a great opportunity to join a fast-growing, highly professional agency. So check the village website, Facebook, and also theblueline.com for more information. Deadline to apply is November 10th at 4 p.m. End of report.
Great, thank you. Moving on to the attorney's report, Larry.
Thank you, Mayor. 3 items for the board's consideration. The first item is an ordinance approving the purchase of 5511 West Court Street. The PIN numbers are set forth. This is $165,000. The seller is quite anxious to close the deal. There's one typo in the ordinance, which I will change on the address, but the closing should take place, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks from now. And in connection with this motion to need authorization to disperse funds to close the deal. So it's up for the board's review and consideration.
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Just to be clear, there's one residence, one structure.
Mhm.
It's 2 parcels, but one structure.
Correct.
Correct.
2 PIN numbers, 1 structure.
Roll call, please.
I had a quick question.
Yes.
So we're doing the ordinance for the purchase, and are we also doing a second motion to disperse the funds, since it's 2
It could be
separately?
one motion, because the ordinance itself says disperse the funds, but, it's sort of redundant, but in order to show the record that we're paying 165 plus closing costs, I think that's fine.
Okay. Trustee Udris?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
Trustee Horn?
Yes.
Trustee Henson?
Yes.
Trustee Rakis?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
2017.
Thank you, Mayor. The next item is that we received the request from Janet Blue asking that her property be designated as a historic landmark preservation status. Her property is 5359 West Margaret Street. In this ordinance, we're recognizing it as historical preservation, similar to what we did with the creamery. And then I believe this would have to go before the Will County Historic Commission for their review. But the first order of business is for us to approve this request.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Let him say.
Any discussion?
Yeah, so, and I guess just question on the procedure then. So it's basically a 2-step, so we can recommend it, but it still has to go through Will County Historic Preservation.
Yes.
And then if it does indeed get deemed a landmark, then I guess what are the, I don't want to say what are the benefits, because truly it is a benefit to have another landmark here, but will we be responsible for maintaining the property or, keeping the statutes or anything to make it keep it a landmark?
No, ma'am.
That's on the owner.
The repairs and liabilities are responsibilities of the landowner. There's some villages who, they're very strict about this, but it would be Miss Blue's.
Well, and I can think of this one and probably maybe 2 or 3 more that deserve this status in this town, so I'm excited.
Yeah, it's really a nice thing for our village, kind of a bragging right for our village to be able to have these, and the more the better. I was telling a couple of people in my family, we actually own one in Frankfurt that has this landmark, and no, there's no financial gain to it. If anything, it provides more financial hardship on the owner in terms of what you can do and what you can't do. So I think it's a great honor for that property. And if you took time to read the history on it, it really has a unique history and some very famous people actually, for the Chicago area that have passed through this area and lived in that house. So it's really cool.
I think it's really great.
I know Mr. Partek, I'm sorry, is here in case there's any questions. You can make a brief presentation. I know you've been sitting patiently.
Well, I'm with the Old County Historic Preservation Commission. I'm here to answer any questions you might have. I am actually the...
Excuse me, sorry about that. Could you speak into the mic for us so everyone can hear? We have no recording. Thank you.
I am actually a commissioner that's in charge of architectural review. And in fact, that building is quite important architecturally inside and out. And so, and as you have said, there's really no material benefit to the designation, but it's kind of a, if you want to call it, a feather in their cap. And also, it indicates that the village is willing to recognize a cultural monument in your town. And so it's kind of a win-win situation.
Can you tell us when this house was built?
Pardon me?
Can you tell us approximately when this house was built?
I believe it was built in the 1920s.
Okay.
And what's really unusual about it, they do have an original site plan for the property, and the entire block was actually part of that compound, which is very interesting.
Okay.
Hey, Doug, I said that the original construction was 1857, and that they remodeled extensively as of 1925. So I just think it's great, and like Scott had said, it doesn't have any significant burden on the village or anything other than a feather in our cap for having it. I do know that the Historical Society is looking at other buildings and other homes, and that would be great. The owner gets a plaque and a sign, I believe. And then also, as you said, it's a little bit more difficult owning one of those, having to keep the upkeep, and I'm sure only certain things can be done to keep it original. Right. So I think that's a really good start for Monee.
Yep. It reminds me of the city of Normal at the IML conference. They didn't have a natural destination place for their town, and they tapped into their history, and they really honed in on that and their heritage, and it took them a long way. So I could see that happening here with the creamery, with the Blue residents. So it's exciting to see that, and I think that those things will turn it into a destination spot or points and highlight our community. So looking forward to it.
Okay, thank you.
Roll call.
Discussion.
Yep.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
Trustee Horn?
Yes.
Trustee Henson?
Yes.
Trustee Rakis?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Udris?
Yes.
2018.
Thank you, Mayor. The next item is authorization for Mayor Boggs to execute a contract by and between the Village of Monee and Iroquois. This is for the property at 6025 Industrial Drive. The board recalls, we put it out for bid. The only bid that was submitted was from Iroquois. The purchase price is $425,000. We need authorization for the mayor to execute the same.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Horn?
Yes.
Trustee Henson?
Yes.
Trustee Rakis?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Udris?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
That's all I have, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Unfinished business, item number 1, discussion regarding the stop sign / ordinances. Larry?
Sure. I mean, I can start off unless you have something you want to add?
Be my guest.
The two locations that we've talked about, Orchard Trail and Apple Blossom, and then also Court Street and Eastgate, correct? Are the two locations that we would like to see stop signs installed at. So, I mean, I can add that, I live on Orchard Trail, and it's kind of right in the middle from where you turn off of Oak Street, you come up to a stop sign at Locust, but then you have from Locust past the park to around the bend that for motorcycles and cars has become a drag strip. And this gives an opportunity to stop cars before they come past the park, which young kids in the neighborhood are constantly running across the street to get to the park. So a huge safety issue. And in terms of the intersection on Court Street is as we go through our park planning and in improving, we're going to see increased traffic at the park, both pedestrian and vehicles. So again, this is an opportunity to force the vehicles to come to a stop, slow down, kind of, look around, check things out before they continue. So,
In regards to both of the stop signs, that the stop sign over at Orchard and Apple Blossom is right there at the park. So with the high speeds and everything through there, they'll have to stop, and it helps out the people running to and from the park. And a couple of people have talked to me. I talked to Scott, and right along with Court Street, just speed problems that we have in the village when we get the radar signs up and that stop sign up. Hopefully Court Street will calm down too.
So I think there's two issues here that I'm hearing, and John, if you can come up here, I want to present. I would like to present an alternate scenario to the board for this. There's two issues as far as I can tell. Number one is people crossing the street. Excuse me. People crossing the street trying to get across Court Street, and number two, and this has been a perpetual problem for many years, has been speeding. Obviously the police can't be there 24 hours a day, and there's people that, I live on Court Street, so I'm very sensitive to this subject. However, I think there's I would like to submit a better way to handle this. So I happen to be in a neighboring municipality, actually last night and today, and they have a street that's very similar to ours in the sense that it's a heavily traversed street. The speed limit on this street is 25 miles an hour. On one side of the street is all residential. On the other side of the street, there is a park. So looked at it very carefully on how they handled this situation. So here's a picture of this street. There's let's see, 5 things that, I guess 4 things that they've done to handle both those two issues. Number one, they put rumble strips up on each side. The only difference on this street, it's an east-west, or I'm sorry, it's a north-south versus an east-west street. So they put rumble strips up. There is signage, as you can see in this picture, in the middle of the street, that it's a pedestrian crossing. There's the painted crosswalk, and there is, if people need to cross, there is a button that you push, and then that stops traffic, or it flashes, and people can cross. So that's one of the approaches. You can see very well there the painted crosswalk. Go to the next picture. There you can see the rumble strips. There's 2 sets of those, and they're very, I guess they're very light. I don't know how you would classify it, but it lets you know that there's something coming up there. Go to the next one, please. And there's another picture of the crosswalk. And then keep going. And then there is the signage and the button that you press. You can see that it's a solar-powered system. So I've noticed, and again, I'm over there fairly on a regular basis because my brother and sister-in-law live actually on that street, and so I've observed it. And, you know, one thing I think that helps people slow down there is the presence of that, that pedestrian sign in the middle of the street. You don't want to run into that and scratch up your car. But also the rumble strips alert people to the issue as well. You know, I guess that I would rather see something like this than putting up a full-blown stop sign. This is on Court Street. Thank you for clarifying that. This is on Court Street. You know, Scott, you know your street better than I do. So I'm just suggesting this for Court. I just see residents, I can envision residents being rather frustrated with having another stop sign on that stretch of land. I mean, you know, of course, speeding is always going to be an issue. I mean, everywhere. It's not just on Court or Orchard or anywhere. But, you know, what are the best ways to deal with this? I think I would rather, you know, the solution that I'm offering is, rather than using a sledgehammer analogy, use a love tap to get people to slow down.
Do you have any literature on the town that used that approach as to, did it get less? Is it the same? Is it more?
I haven't gone that deep
Okay.
with this. This is actually Dyer, Indiana. It's Hart Street, if you know that neighborhood.
Okay.
It's not that far away.
You said your in-laws lived there. I just didn't know if maybe they told you, you know what I mean? So I think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
Just to let you know, we have been throwing the idea of rumble strips around. We're all kind of looking into rumble strips for each side of the park and what would be the best for, you know, after the winter with the plow, whether it would be better to put grooves in, whether it would be okay to put rumble strips up, what would be the better way of doing that. It has been tossed around, and we have talked about, a few of us have talked about it.
Well, these, and I know these are, like I say, they're not real deep grooves. They let you know that
It's right in the concrete, right?
they're white strips that are laid on top of the concrete. I don't know all the engineering that's involved with that.
So, and I listened to that too, and I think this is actually a really good idea, considering the sidewalk that's going in on the side, you know, on Court Street as well, and our safe routes to school in doing all of this, and more signaling there, and especially with a pedestrian walkway on the other side. I think, like Doug just said, that's a win-win. You know, I think this is actually a really good time to look at this.
Well, we have something similar on Main Street by the post office, correct? With the.
Yes.
With the thing in
How
the middle,
effective
yeah.
has that been with traffic there? I mean, do you have an input in that?
That's a very, very generic question. How effective,
I mean,
it's a high pedestrian area.
Mhm.
It's recognized as a high pedestrian area. Comparing that traffic-wise to Court Street
Right.
at the park is apples and oranges.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would agree.
Yeah.
But it is effective in the scenario and the environment where it exists.
Mm-hmm. See, and that's my concern with doing this on Court Street. Court Street, to me, the bigger hazard, the bigger issue that we're trying to deal with is the speeding traffic, not so much pedestrians looking for a place to cross the street, although that is part of the issue. But I think the bigger issue is slowing the vehicles down that are coming down Court Street. So I would be more in favor of a stop sign personally.
You're also coming off of stop sign at Oak and Main for the post office.
Mhm.
So you have a stop sign within a block of that pedestrian crossover that you have at the post office anyway.
Yeah.
Which is going to slow traffic in that area.
And also we were talking about when the park's plan and everything, the park gets going, I'm sure there's going to be walkways, there's going to be signs, there's going to be flashing signs for pedestrians and everything when that all comes to fruition, because there's going to be a lot of pedestrian crossing there into the new park and everything when we get it put done. So that will be, I'm sure, in the future also.
And Chief, do you have any ideas of what might work better, or does that sound like to me, it sounds like a great idea.
In front of the White House, they have these concrete barriers that pop up when you hit a button.
Okay.
They've been very effective in stopping speeding. Other than that, I mean, you're looking at something that is a viable alternative to a stop sign. When we went around and looked at these areas to determine where we should make recommendations, the parks were obviously a big concern. Pedestrian traffic is a big concern. Looking at the long term, as Trustee Henson said, your plan is to make this park and this area a center point for this community. With the grant, with all the plans, you want to bring people to it. This is just another safety thing, and it's dual in that it provides safety for these pedestrians. You can have all of that and put the stop sign at the same place. It's a safety thing for the pedestrians, which is your number one priority there. Secondly, it offers the benefit of slowing traffic down on Court Street. So in that regard, we look at it as it's a win-win either way. This is not bad, this is good, this is a good idea. I would not personally say that I'm going to tell you what to do one way or the other. I think that's up to you.
Good call.
But when, thank you, Trustee Horn. Can I stay chief for a little while longer? The big thing that we looked at was today, tomorrow, and next year. So that was why we made the recommendations that we did.
But just to clarify, Scott, your official position is either solution is a good one.
Oh, yeah, I think they're both definitely good solutions. In fact, I like what the chief said, why not do both? If we can, why not do both? Still have the stop sign, but have the pedestrian crossing that can highlight the fact that there are actually people in the area that are going to be walking across. So that's not a bad idea either.
It'll slow you down, and then people will blow the stop sign, so it'll be all the same. I think you're right.
I was going to make mention, I know I'm not a voting part of this, but I do live right over on Apple Blossom by that area, and I'm outside with the kids all the time, and they blow the stop signs. They don't stop, so it's not slowing anyone down. They just keep going. I mean, you guys would make a killing there, but I'm just saying, they blow the stop signs all the time.
Maybe we can volunteer every once in a while and get some spike strips from sheep.
No, actually, I like this idea. Draws attention, rumble strips make noise, people look, brings attention to the vehicle, especially if they sound loud and fast. You take a look and see what's going on, so I think we take a different approach. I'd be in favor of it.
The blinking light too.
You can program it how you want.
Do you want us to do anything with this tonight, or we're still working on this, or we need to come to some agreement?
I would think we're still working on it now, because especially if there's sounds like there's some further discussion that's warranted. So.
Or continue with Orchard Trail with the stop sign there, and then work on the options for Court Street?
Yeah, at least
Yes.
that, yeah. I think Orchard.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Do I need to make a motion
Yeah, I was
on
going to
that?
say, make a motion, and now, I think we had passed an ordinance a while ago saying 4 stop signs, but I'll amend it to include this one then, this
Okay,
Orchard
because I'd like
Trail.
to make a motion to add a stop sign on Orchard Trail at Apple Blossom.
I would like to second that.
Any further discussion on that? Roll call, please.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
Trustee Horn?
Yes.
Trustee Henson?
Yes.
Trustee Rakes?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Udris?
Yes.
Awesome.
Hey, Scott, in the same vein, how are we looking with the radar signs?
Those have been ordered, waiting for them to come in.
Okay, thank you.
Larry, really quick. So with the one we just did, because I know that it was shown on here for discussion and not necessarily action, this is for you to draw up 4 ordinances, correct? So then we rather necessarily have it as a consensus for you to bring that instead of doing it as a motion.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so can we just take that back and just have it as a consensus, please? If the first person, if I have Udris and Henson, please?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, and I have consensus of everyone, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure we have that correct.
All right, item number 2, Ruben.
Thank you, Mayor. This is under unfinished business, pavilion redesign. On November 1st, 2022, the Village Board of Trustees met during a Parks Committee meeting to discuss the plan design for the Fireman's Park Pavilion. A board consensus was taken concerning redesign plans, and it was mutually agreed upon by the board to replace the old pavilion with the new park pavilion. The redesign will be similar in appearance to the old pavilion with some considerable upgrades, including a larger area footprint, which will be 50 foot by 100 foot, an improved reinforced steel rooftop, electrical wiring to support improved lighting and a sound system, treated wood beams and support, in limestone masonry affixed to the base of the pillar supports that would look similar in appearance to the creamery. As a reminder, $415,000 was previously approved for the original project, but to memorialize the redesign consensus, we would need a motion tonight. So the board action requested is a motion to approve the Fireman's Park Pavilion redesign as outlined.
Make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Of course. So I know probably back in August, we all met and we all decided and we all voted and we all had our grand plans. And after a few more weeks, we agreed. And then the drawings came in and it wasn't exactly what we talked about, right? And then other opportunities have been given or realized, I guess, that could be options for us, for the village. And that's why we decided to go back to the literal drawing board. And so there have been designs then, or requests again, made of PBS. And are we in receipt of any drawings yet so far?
It's in motion.
It's in motion. The wheels are turning. So, and then, so I would only just submit and request before we say go, that this board gets a chance to look at those redesigns as well.
Oh, yeah, I concur.
Are we using the same firm?
Yes.
And are we going back to the original amount?
But we as a board have already approved up to that amount. So whatever they submit, we can, without another vote, we can't go over that amount.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would just like to add that, from the beginning, I think all of us, we dreamed big. We thought, we had all these grand ideas and wanted to make it, take advantage of the situation we're in and make it the best that we can make it. And, I'm glad that we're all in agreement, that we've worked well together to figure it out. And I like the fact that we're going to be doing a design that's going to carry on the heritage of our town, so.
And that's why we have professionals do the drawings, because we're not any good at it.
All right, roll call.
No, I know we have a first and a second, and I know you guys are saying that you want to be able to see the end beforehand. So is this something that you guys are going to have to say again, or are we, I'm just trying to see.
Correct. We don't need another ordinance as long, we want to see the design before you hit the go button, just up to the amount that was originally approved.
Right, so that's already there, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying, as far as this is saying, as far as for the pavilion redesign, but you guys want to see it first, so is it, you want to see it first and then say,
So
okay,
should
go
we
on
table
that?
this until that
Or,
design
that's what I'm
comes in?
saying.
You can do either one.
Well, it's just like what we did do. We got the design and we says, So, I mean, it's.
That's what I'm saying.
If we
Maybe
get
what
the
we need to
design
do
again and
is-
we say, we can come back and do the same thing, correct?
Well, that's why I said maybe we need to table this vote until the drawings do come in.
Have the final design and
So
then-
that we're
Good
not going
idea.
back and
Very
and
good idea.
overriding another
Right.
vote again. So I guess I'll make a motion to
And I'll
table this
second.
until we get the drawings in.
And I
Okay.
would say too, it has to be done, unless we're gonna miss all next year's building season again too, that we probably have to put the wheels in motion pretty quickly
Yeah, timing.
and give them a go.
We've already been waiting and waiting.
Okay, so we have before we do the motion to postpone, I need trustee Wilson and Henson to take back, to
I
withdraw
rescind.
your.
Rescind.
Okay. Okay, so we have a first and a second to postpone till we get the designs. Trustee Henson?
Yes.
Trustee Rakis?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Udris?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
Trustee Horn?
Okay. Does anybody have any new business?
I don't have new business. Thank you, Chief.
Okay, open to the public, non-agenda items. If anybody has anything that they would like to say, please feel free. Floor is yours.
Gary Sullivan. Anything to make the community safer, I'm in favor of it. Even though it was Doug's idea with the rumble strip, I still like it. Okay. Speaking of Court Street, why isn't there a school speed zone there?
Because we reduced the speed limit to 25 some years ago.
School zone is 20.
I'll let Chief take it.
There's one on Will Center, but there's not a zone here.
The zone is on Main Street. The traffic that goes in and out of the school and the buses and everything is related to that side of the school. That's why they set the zone up on that side.
Okay.
Yep.
And I would like to see dividing Court Street, like the 3-foot sticks, because I can count on both hands how many times I've been passed on Court Street. And a lot of people, especially in Gulf Vista, have said that. That's bad, and especially in the morning. For some reason, in the morning, people are running late or whatever, and I've been passed, like I said, I can count on two hands. So, I know you can't be everywhere, but I don't think you can do that all the way down Court Street, but, okay. Thank you.
In reference to that passing on Court Street, I've been passed dozens of times in the time that I've lived here. And it happens all the time now.
May I please have a motion to adjourn?
Make that motion, Mayor.
Second.
Third.
One more thing?
What?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's in the budget, but could you change the clock?
Oh, God.
That was on purpose.
Trustee Rakis?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Udris?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
Trustee Horn? Trustee Henson?
Yes.
8:12 PM.